Hey, good evening, awesome gals. I am sitting here in the middle of the Sawtooths, and apart from doing this Facebook, this Wellness Wednesday, want to welcome you to that, and and not being unplugged. I plan to unplug for the next few days, uh, and that's what my topic is. We're gonna wait while a few more people jump on, but. Uh, I hope you've all had a good start to your week and have been considering some of the things that you've been learning. I did want to say something before I get onto the topic that I know those of you who have scheduled consultations in the future, and I know you're waiting a little while for those consultations, and I wish that we could have done them sooner, but my schedule wasn't it wasn't you know going to allow that. Uh, some of you are thinking you want to get in to see your doctors before that and get tests done. Listen, the point of doing the consultation is to talk about your case, to see if it makes sense to get the comprehensive testing that you need, that I need you to get in order to help you have the right information, the right comprehensive diagnosis to help get to the root of your problem. So it will do you no good to get these tests done and have your doctor order them, because they will not order all of the tests that I want you to order. I cannot emphasize that enough. They simply do not, because they are beholden to insurance, and they will only get the tests that insurance covers. Now, there are some doctors that are willing to order beyond what insurance covers, but those tests will cost you a fortune. So I need you to hear that. I mean, I don't want that to happen. I want you to come in to your consultation, filling out the intake forms, and we'll go over everything that we need to discuss that day to decide if you need to move forward, and we'll go from there. So uh, be patient is all I can tell you. But okay, so enough about that. We're going to talk about getting unplugged, getting away from your dopamine depletion devices. Okay. What is dopamine? Dopamine is a neurochemical that you need, your brain needs. A very important area of your brain needs dopamine. It's called the substantia nigra, that is essential for your movement. So this is what is the problem in Parkinson's disease, where you lack the ability to make dopamine in the substantia nigra, and then you develop Parkinson's. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to deplete your dopamine. Now, what's interesting is dopamine starts the thyroid cascade. The thyroid metabolic cascade starts when dopamine and serotonin affect the pituitary cells, along with a few other things, to help make thyroid stimulating hormone. And thyroid stimulating hormone then tells the thyroid what to do. And it goes and helps the thyroid to make thyroxine, T4. And then we know from the class that T4 then needs to be converted to T3, which is the active thyroid hormone. So let's take those few steps back to dopamine. If you're lacking dopamine, you could have symptoms like depression, right? Like problems sleeping. And some of the symptoms that go along with depression would be like, you just flat out don't care, right? So apathy, poor motivation, you lack sex drive, and the pleasure in sex and in other pleasurable things. You have to have dopamine to be able to enjoy that and want that from time to time. So this is so important, right? And why am I talking about getting unplugged? How many of you know why it's so important to really be unplugged? Have you considered the importance of getting away from these devices, right? Getting away from these screens, these uh im- what am I going to say? What do I want to say? These immediately gratifying devices, because we can scroll through this app and just see things that catch our eye right away, and we get that dopamine hit. Okay, our brains go for that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's so good, and that's so interesting." And oh, my friend's going through this, and I've every single picture, every single message, um, every single like. Uh, it's a dopamine hit. You get that, and after your brain and sometimes hopefully your gut bacteria is helping you with that. Um, Once it makes so much dopamine, those cells are out of resources, and you drop. And that dopamine is you're deprived of enough dopamine to be able to get your thyroid functioning properly. TSH, a lot of you have a normal TSH, normal, like sub, below 1, simply because you can't make it enough. And yet and as a result, your hormones are lower, right? Your thyroxine is lower, your um your T3 is lower, because we're checking those, right? We have to do that. Your reverse T3 might be lower, which is great, but if you're not getting enough T4, which converts to T3, then you're hypothyroid with a normal to low TSH, and your doctor's going to miss it. They're going to miss it, and you're going to go on suffering from fatigue, from poor sleep, exhaustion, hitting that wall at 3 p.m., 3 p.m., brittle nails, losing your hair, constipation, all these symptoms that we know so well go along with hypothyroidism. Okay. That's the biggest reason why we should unplug. Actually more often than we don't. We just get sucked in. Another thing I wanted to discuss as we were talking about uh, electronics, I want to just talk briefly about 5G and microwaves. Microwaves are 2.4 gigahertz. So a lot of us have this 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 internet, right? We have access. Well, all of us have access to this internet, and it has been up until recently 2.4 gigahertz. Well, there's two types of microwaves. There's ionized waves and non-ionized microwaves. Non-ionizing and ionizing. The dangerous one is ionizing. Okay, that's the nuclear waves that we don't want any part of. But the non-ionizing microwaves, this is what your household microwave has in it. And I just wanted to say a couple things briefly about that. So we're used to reheating our food in the microwave, and so it's not necessarily it's not, as I've learned recently or over my studies, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you overcook and thoroughly cook something too much, you're always going to deplete the nutrients. All right. The microwaves themselves aren't necessarily harmful to unless you're used to standing in front of the microwave and that can be harmful. That can actually cause eye damage and cataracts. So we do know that. But if you're warming it up and you're not standing in front of it, that's not necessarily a dangerous thing for your body. But the food, just keep in mind, it's much better to reheat your food uh, slowly over a stovetop or in the oven. Maybe maybe an air fryer, but not for very long, and not to really overcook it. So those are the things I wanted to point out about microwaves. Now, 5G. There's a lot of hype about the dangers of 5G, and I think there's actually a lot to it. There are certainly anecdotal um, reports and evidence of those living near 5G towers get sicker, and there have been plenty of reports about this. As far as 5G going through the atmosphere, I think the jury's still out, and my opinion is still forming on this. To be perfectly honest, um, it very well could have detrimental effects on our body's proteins, our hormone function, and but at the heart of that would be DNA function. So, uh, like I said, for me, the jury's still out. I'm hoping to continue to learn more about that and share that with you once I do. But that all this kind of goes into the electronics portion of this little talk. So, um, all right, I think that uh, it's important to let's go back and talk about the importance of unplugging and what we can do alongside that. A lot of you have heard about grounding, and there is definitely, again, from my studies, there's something to this. And um, electromagnetic fields is what basically 5G and 2.4 gigahertz are. These are EMF, electromagnetic fields. Um, our electronics emit a lot of these these electromagnetic fields. So um, I like to keep a salt rock. It's right on my desk near my computer at work. I have a salt rock or salt lamp in the bedroom. Um, Salt lamps are really good to help with neutralizing some of that negative ionization that occurs, because there is some of that happening. Like I said, I've got a lot to learn about it. I admit that I need to learn more. So there are grounding mats that you can get. Sorry for the wiggling on that. There are grounding pads and mats that you can use in and around your electronics, your computer station, and you can put your feet on one, your bare feet. So grounding. Let's talk more about that. Um, it is just really important to be able to get out in nature, get out on a sandy beach, um, uh, whenever you can. Bare feet on the sandy beach. No better way to ground and neutralize some of that negative ionization that's happening in your body. And that's again why it's so important to have the right food as well. That's a another topic, but so important to get out and while you're out, you're unplugging, you're getting away from, gosh, just getting away from the stress, from the the hubbub, the chaos of life, and be able to bring that cortisol down and just enjoy the world around you, because that is part of grounding. Okay, staying grounding, so important for mental health, for physical health. Okay, it's all so important. And I think that it's important to to plan some of this out. It's easier to do when you do plan it. When you think about what you need to do for your health. We've talked a lot about setting goals. We talked a lot about setting goals in the master class, setting specific measurable goals, and the how to get to those goals. Well, this all takes planning, including the the whole thing regarding eating the right foods and avoiding those 5 inflammatory foods. I'll just review them briefly. Grains and gluten, corn, which we know is a grain, it's not a vegetable, but I list it separate because we got to avoid it. Dairy, soy, sugar, and fructose, right? All of these cause major inflammation for us. And you can't afford any of that. Your symptoms, those symptoms you're having, are the effects, the result of inflammation. So the fatigue, the inability to lose weight, right? Of course, that's not the way we want to say it. The inability to release fat, that's better. Sleeplessness or insomnia, brain fog and trouble coming up with the right words, or the losing your thought in conversation, those kind of things. So avoiding these foods, all part of being able to decrease inflammation, but this takes planning. It takes getting things out in front of you, finding the recipes, and planning. Okay, can't emphasize that enough. All right. Part of grounding, I think, is and for most of us, I think would include spirituality, at least in some form. So whatever that means to you, spending time doing that, okay, whatever that looks like to you. So I think that about covers everything that I wanted to go into for this topic. I think I'll leave that there, and I'm going to get back to unplugging and enjoy this beautiful, this beautiful scenery and this beautiful place. Enjoy the oxygen that is so prevalent, so abundant here. And I wish you all a wonderful evening. Remember that you still have the power to heal. Take care, ladies, and have a good evening.